Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 1, Episode 11. It's called The Wolf Inside. So full spoilers for the episode, as always. So we pick up, basically, where we left off, although maybe a little time has passed, but not a great deal. Because I actually thought there was a bit of time passage at first, and then when other Saru comes in, and it's the first time she's seen him, I thought, oh, well, it can't be that
I
long
think it's
then.
been a few days.
Yeah, but it's not a lot of time because she wasn't even aware he was around until this moment.
No.
So it couldn't be a large amount of time. But yeah, so Michael's on the Shenzhou, the ISS Shenzhou in the Mirror World. Well, everyone's in the Mirror World, but she's on the ship acting as captain. We get this very almost novel or comic book type narration at the start where she's talking about how hard it is to.
It is, yeah.
To sort of pretend to be this evil, and she's worried she's losing herself. And it's kind of revealed later on she's actually talking to Tyler at one point later on, he's lying in bed with her, and she's voicing her worries. And it sets up something important for later. The execution method for this ship or for this entire regime is to just beam people into space and let them suffocate and freeze to death.
It's Empire standard procedure by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Super dark. I love it. I'm not sure if past Mirror World episodes and previous shows have set this up, or if it's a new thing here. But either way, I like it. It's cool. It's dark as shit. I'm on board. So a lot of the episode deals with her sort of dancing around and pretending to be evil and dealing with the crew, and she's presented with this moral dilemma where they get to this planet and apparently they've found the resistance. This alliance between the Klingons, the Vulcans, the Angorians, everyone else, and the leader, the secret leader, the Red Wolf, is here, whoever he is. And obviously,
Firewolf.
Was it Firewolf? Sorry, Firewolf. And you know that this is going to be someone, right? We're going to recognise, from the other world.
Anytime there's a code name.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with the Emperor. All episodes, okay, when's the Emperor going to show themselves? I'm going to see who it is. But they're going to just fire and just obliterate the entire planet immediately. And she's like, no, don't second get. And I liked how convincing Michael was at stopping it from happening, but without it looking suspicious that she was stopping it.
Yeah.
Because she played it as, how dare you assume my order? It was well done, I thought.
And it's like, you've all gotten soft without me.
Yeah.
Let's do this proper.
Yeah, I'm going down. I'm going to look at them as I kill them. It's okay, right, okay, you're selling this really well. Let's do this. So she goes down with Tyler, and we see that she goes to speak to Lorca, in between torture sessions, and he's clearly struggling.
Get out of it, yeah.
Yeah. And what I like about this actually is that she brings up, hey, if I can go talk to this, these races are all allied, and if we can find out how the Klingons are leading these people and how they're not what they're like in our world, maybe we can take that knowledge and actually have peace with the Klingons, rather than just annihilate them. And obviously from Trek history, we know that eventually that does happen, because eventually we have Klingon crew members.
Yeah, even by the time we get to, just the original series, there's an uneasy peace, at least.
Yeah, and obviously the original series sets up that it's going to get better, maybe, beyond. And then it's actually... It's funny when you think about it in sort of past tense, but it was actually Next Gen started and we had Worf on the ship. And then that actually started before the sixth movie, which is actually kind of the movie that kind of has the moment, if you will, that sets that in motion. At least from memory. Obviously, when we get there, we can be more specific. I've not seen it in a long time. But, so no, I like that, because it's okay, it's the idea that Michael's saying, hey, there's maybe a better option here. We can maybe actually learn something here that will lead to a better solution on our side that isn't just war. Okay, so I like that. I like that she's tackling it from that point of view. So she goes down with Tyler, and we get an Andorian, we get various species all attacking them and taking them to the leader, which turns out to be Vok.
Yes.
And obviously, immediately Tyler's having weird, PTSD flashbacks.
Obviously, last week it confirmed a lot of the theory anyway, but we were still not saying. We were like, okay, maybe it's not Vok for definite, because we were like, okay, he's definitely a Klingon, but there wasn't anything explicitly.
That was the most likely option.
It was the most likely, but there was nothing explicit last week. And obviously, you get to this moment, it's like, okay, sure. But even if not, the previously on, it showed Vok for the first time in a while, and then cut straight to Tyler.
I thought it was so obvious, though, that I don't think it really felt like it was
No.
I didn't feel like the previous one was giving us stuff we didn't know, because that's the one Laurel cares about, so it just made sense that it was Vought the whole time.
Yeah.
So I never looked at that necessarily as a reveal so much as just like a thing for him, like when he reacts and he starts freaking out and then eventually attacks. Of course, we see Sarek, and Sarek is sporting a goatee.
I loved it.
In the tradition of Mirror World Spock, except unlike Spock, this looked like a real goatee. So props to them. That's why we've not seen him. And he's not evil, but that's why we've not seen him in like 6-7 episodes. Is because they had to give him time to grow a bit of facial hair for the episode.
I as much as I appreciate the effort, I kind of wish it wasn't a real one.
Oh no, I would stand out in this show. Come on,
it would, but just because.
Nah, it's good. Yeah, which is interesting because if this is the same Mirror World that we end up seeing in the original series, then why is Spock so evil? And
also,
in the original.
More interestingly, why Spock? They were part of this empire, right? Or were they just pirates or something? I can't remember exactly. Were they? I assume they were still part of this Federation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Spock was part of the crew. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is interesting, given that we're learning here this empire is extremely xenophobic and hates all aliens.
Yeah, maybe Spock's just this traitor who joins up with them, or
maybe
something like that. But no, so interesting stuff, and he actually mind melds with her, and he gets glimpses of her world, and often isn't fully explain it. He kind of sees hope, he sees the idea of compassion and peace, and he just kind of like, yeah, we can trust her. Like, regardless of whatever else is going on, regardless that we think she's this butcher of the binary stars who wiped out.
I like that she's that in both worlds.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. It's the only difference being here in this world, she probably intended exactly what she was doing, but she so it's like, okay, right, they're trusting her, and first of all, it's nice to have Vought just speaking English and not,
Oh, it's so much nicer.
It's just so much better, and. So I like this scene. I like what it's poking at thematically. I like that she's like, okay, I'll give you time to leave, but I need to know. And she sort of asks a bunch of questions about how is this happening, and it's like, oh no, we're united. But before we were united, the Klingons themselves had to be united as one, which is maybe leading to the idea that part of solving the problem of the Klingons is kind of solving the friction amongst them in the first place. So that might be something interesting we explore down the line. So it sets up all this stuff. But of course, Tyler freaks out and starts attacking him because he's a Klingon traitor. Because this is to him this is a soft Klingon. If this is the real Vok inside him, he's like, no, you have betrayed the Klingon, brotherhood.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. They got to keep it pure, keep their language alive, and he's like, nah, forget it.
Yeah, and he attacks him. It's all a confusing thing. And if I'm going to criticize this episode, I do think. The moment with Tyler on its own is fine. I do think that when they come back up to the planet, though, after they've okay, you've got an hour to evacuate, and then I'll, and they give them some intel that they can pass off as, the mission's been successful, blah 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 blah. But they come back up, and Michael's like, all right, Tyler in my quarters, and they go to the quarters. I did think the conversation in the quarters itself that kind of uncovered all this stuff was a bit in the clunky side. Yeah,
no, that's fair.
It just the way it went through all the details, the way it was kind of jumping around, and her kind of slowly realizing. It felt as a bit much of a dump.
It was a lot of exposition, wasn't it?
Yeah. Especially since, okay, so you have the moment in there where he realizes he killed Culber, and it's okay, right, so that confirms he didn't remember that before, but now he does, and then he's starting to freak out, and now it's fully him, and now it's basically Vox in control now, completely and utterly.
It is. And do you know what I thought was a nice touch? I didn't know for sure that Vok was the same actor until he started using the Vok voice.
Actually, well, that's the thing. I think one of the first hints that people spotted was that who they were casting as Vok was an anagram or something like that of the same actor.
I actually looked this up after I finished reading. That it wasn't. What they did is they let him pick another name to use.
Right, okay.
You just pick a name to use as that other character, as a stage name, and he used his father's name.
Yeah, my point being though, there was something in the name that it kind of told you it was connected. It wasn't.
Yeah.
There was something there. I remember the anagram, but he used his father's name. But the point being is that there was a name there that was wait a minute, something's not quite. This is fishy. So this is too similar to this other name, and. Yeah, so it was actually kind of cool when he did the voice. When he started speaking in the Vok voice, I was like, oh, okay. I actually think he's a better actor in the Vok voice, I'm not going to lie.
I I do as well.
It's
It works
bizarre
for him, doesn't it?
I don't know why, but for some reason the softer human voice,
the Vok voice, but in English.
in English, yes, in Klingon, it's it's
I'm
annoying.
not holding that against any particular actor. I just don't think that can be that well acted as a language.
Oh yeah, no, it's not the actor's fault. It's just the stupid language. Yeah, but no, so there's interesting points in there. But I just thought the overall scene as a whole, all of this happening at one time, just felt a bit clunky. The moment I did really like though was Saru kind of saving her at the end of the fight. It was kind of touching because Saru in this world's a slave, and like this is like very conflicted for Michael because she's in the bath at the start and like he's like doing her nails and all these other things. And she actually calls him by his name at one point, which she's not supposed to do, because he makes a point of saying, "Oh, slaves have no name," and it's almost like this. Even though he doesn't really know who she is, he doesn't really know that she's from another world, that she's this better person. It's like there's just a little hint of like she's better than what she was before, or something. There's like a small little connection.
Yeah, what I'm intrigued in is, so was it she goes, "Oh, I'm going to call you that," and it was this. He just appreciated that she'd taken the time to give him a name and
no, it's his real name.
Do you think it's just his real name?
I think it's his real name.
Yeah. That was the other more obvious.
And I think
that, she knew she's different.
And I think that's what makes it work, is that it's not just she gave me a name. It's that how did she know my name? She shouldn't even care what my name is, but she knew what it was.
Yeah.
I think that explains maybe why there is more of a tangible connection of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, if it was the other way, it still works for me. Just the idea that no, she took the time to give him a name when he's not supposed to have one. That still does work.
Oh sure, I think that's just a bit narratively a bit. It's the opposite of that whole scene with Tyler. It's less clunky. It's nice.
It's just a bit neater, isn't it?
It's just neater and streamlined. Yeah, it just works.
I do say that's one of my other problems with the episode. I wish we'd got a scene with this Saru after that incident. He's just stood there, and then we go off and deal with all the other stuff. We never get that. I assume we're getting it next week.
I assume we're getting more because we're still on this ship come the end of the episode. Pardon me. I'm dying.
Your turn to die this week.
Apparently. Was that on Star Trek last week?
I think it might have been.
You record so much, I have no idea what video that is. You could be referencing some...
It happened a few times around this time last week.
You could be referencing some other thing that no one is watching this watched.
I might be, yeah. Well, it's a parallel world. Someone's watched it.
Yeah. I preferred the world where you were dying. I'm not going to lie. So I like that. And then obviously it's like, Tyler's going to be, killed. He's going to be terminated. So they take him to the transporter room. And I'm like, man, this is actually really ballsy and cold if they just let Michael go through with this. But she insists on being the one to take the controls and actually, phase him out herself. And it's actually a neat resolution to what we've had so far. Is they've got the old school data disk from Star Trek, and she's like, I've got all the data, but it needs to be, cracked. But I can't. There's no way to send something without them noticing it. So our cunning plan is to plank it on Vok Tyler, is what I'm going to call him, and. She beams him out into space, and I was actually shocked when it cut to him, because I was like, okay, as soon as she does it, I was like, okay, she sent him somewhere else, but then you see him in space for like a second, and I'm like, oh, she's actually in space, but then the beam comes back on, and then you see that somehow she spoke, because we know she's been in contact occasionally through comms with Tilly and Saru, so obviously she's given them the heads up, and they've beamed them back onto Discovery, just at the last second. So they take him in, and again, I actually really like Saru's because he's like, oh, you should have let me die because I'm Vok, I'm Klingon, blah blah blah, and he's like, no, we're still Starfleet, we're still going to play by our rules, like no matter what, I don't care where we are, we're going to uphold those principles. So it's starting to feel a little bit more Star Trekky, and that they're really kind of trying to uphold those ideas.
I'm glad. I know it's like the easy thing to keep him alive, and the thing is, I'm glad they did, because otherwise I'd have felt this was really wasted. Because you're saying, oh, this would have been really bold and ballsy to just kill him off here.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. The plot felt like it was developing for more afterwards, but at the same time, the idea that Michael would just let this happen,
because that's it. I was watching this considering, all right, are they going to just kill him here? They can't, because otherwise, what's this accomplished?
No, I agree, but at the same time, it's ballsy. And maybe not ballsy for the right reasons, admittedly, but I was maybe thinking, maybe it'll inspire L'Rell to be even more of a villain. Like this will be the motivation for her to go supernova, essentially. But I completely agree. Like it would have cut a lot of development short by just taking him out now. But there was a moment when I'm like, wait, they're really just going to beam him out of space and let him suffocate? This is kind of insane.
Yeah. I think what the most likely thing is we mentioned earlier how the trick with the Klingons was them uniting themselves first. I assume we're going to get that through Vok, because Vok was always he was positioned to be the next leader after T'Kuvma. That was where he was supposed to be.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Vok even remembers in this that it was Michael. Like, he remembers that whole scene. He remembers her killing T'Kuvma, and remembers fighting with her. He remembers all of that in this scene.
Interesting little thing. We heard Tyler say that he can still feel and hear the thoughts of Vok in there. So presumably Vok can has some awareness of Tyler as well. So maybe that's how it'll be. They'll kind of balance each other out a bit, which is how he becomes maybe able to be reasoned with and negotiated with.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Like, they could go down that path. I think they will to an extent. I don't know if it'll be a like Michael and Discovery crew will actually agree on something with him. I think it'll almost be something where maybe Vok will eventually escape, he will unite the Klingons, and then it'll be like, oh, this is actually better in the long run, even though it wasn't what we were trying to do or what we intended.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, there might be a moment where Michael insists on letting something happen, and it'll feel like, if to everyone else it'll be a risky move, but she'll see that, oh, this will unite them, and this is actually a better thing down the line. Because, does Vok, really want the war that's happening right now?
No, that's true. I'm just thinking the idea of Vok and Tyler coexisting is maybe the premise that Klingons and humans can coexist ultimately.
Maybe. I could see that. I don't know. I wonder if it's even more of a stronger message, though. If Vok just takes over, Tyler just fades away, right? And he's just gone. That said, though, can he become Klingon again? Is he stuck in this human form?
It's a good question.
Will the Klingons accept someone who, even though he's technically Vok, will they accept him just because he looks different?
Yeah. Although, to be fair, Vok always had that problem anyway, because he was the albino, right? So.
Oh, sure, but there's a big difference between...
No, there's a bigger difference. Don't get me wrong. This is a much bigger difference between them. But he already had that outsider's look. They already looked down on him for his appearance.
Before he was just a slightly different Klingon, now he's a completely different species. And given how Klingons feel about other species,
I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying at least it's an evolution of that rather than just a new thing for him.
Sure. That's a very true point. What I think would maybe almost be a sort of a more definite message would be if the Klingons come together as one without too much human influence. Like, if the ultimate message here is that it's not something we can interfere with, and kind of like the overall message of Star Trek, we can't interfere in other civilizations, they have to develop on their own. I like the idea that maybe Vok does unite the Klingons, but it's not necessarily... maybe he gets an idea from someone. Maybe Michael does get an idea in his head of some kind, but it's not so much because there's going to be this... The humans are going to be there kind of not caressing them, but massaging the idea constantly and always being there over their shoulder. No, the Klingons will do this on their own, as their own
that makes
thing.
Sense.
And speaking of, obviously we need to mention the Saru scene where it's Saru over the comms, and he's getting an update from Michael, and he just at the end he's like, hey, my species is kind of rare on this side as it is. Have you seen any? And obviously she's already seen Saru, and she doesn't have the heart to tell him that they're here but they're slaves. She doesn't have the heart to actually say that to him. And it's probably the most emotional, touching point of the episode, I thought.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I really like that. I like the introduction to when we come to the Discovery for the first time and all the lights are flickering and we see there's one crew member fixing things up, but all the lights are off and it's dark. It's really atmospheric. I like that. And you get to Stamets just holding Culber and he's he's talking about the forest again. More of this forest talk. Yeah. Forest stuff's happening.
It's gonna be a thing.
Yeah, but they actually think it's him that's killed.
It's a reasonable assumption because there's no one else there. He's out of his cage.
He's acting obviously relatively psychotic.
Yeah.
And Tilly convinces Saru that she might be able to do something more than what the medical staff can do because it's more to do with the spores than it is to do with human biology. Or regular human medicine, maybe is the more exact thing I should say. But she tries to fix him, and there's a lot of science gobbledygook basically between her and Saru as they're like putting
There
stuff.
is, yeah.
They're putting spores in him. Oh, we need to put the spore network inside of him, and he'll find himself.
Yeah, it's like he's in the spore network, but we need the spore network to be in him.
Yeah, so they do a lot of things, and any flatlines, and he does wake up again, but I say wake up, he starts flickering and moving and reacting by the end of the episode to indicate that he's actually still alive, much to Tilly's surprise. Tilly and Saru have a sweet little moment actually where she's like, "Hey, recommend me for command school."
Like, this was pretty good, right? Command track me.
Yeah, he's like, I'll consider it. You'll have to watch your language though. You dropped an F-bomb on Star Trek. That's not allowed.
Yes, that's not very captainly.
Yeah, that's not suitable for command, Tilly. You got to learn. But yeah, so we get this obviously insane moment because it was something I was thinking about earlier in the episode. Is where's Mirror World's Stamets rather? Like, yes. Where is he? And sure enough, at one point, like, after he starts sort of kind of spasming in the chamber, we go into the network, and like Stamets is there, and he's walking around, and it's almost like a science fiction looking like field where there's like lots of blooming like foliage and stuff, and it's very bright, very colourful, and then Stamets in Mirror World ISS uniform is there. He's like, "Oh, I was wondering how long it would take you to show up," or something like that. I've been waiting for you. And obviously they teased this a little bit with the mirror stuff back in episode 4 or 5, whatever it was. They ended with
it was a while ago.
The teeth brushing end scene where he sees in the mirror, and it's like, oh, that's interesting because then it makes you wonder. Okay, well, we know that the Discovery from this world also had a spore drive, didn't it? Because they mentioned that, right?
I don't remember if they didn't necessarily mention it, but they...
Because they mentioned something about, there's a ship with a similar thing to theirs where it can like vanish and reappear.
Yeah.
They definitely said something like that in the last episode. They had a similar weapon.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah, it stands to reason.
And it stands to reason that our Stamets, or their Stamets, is in here as well because of what he's been doing. But of course, because the Shenzhou was never destroyed in this world, the crew that we had from this ship never went to that ship. So that's why we have various bridge crew. It's why we have Saru and so on. But they're not on the Discovery.
Yes.
But
so we don't know what their Discovery crew is necessarily like.
It also makes us wonder: is their Discovery in our world?
Okay. No, I don't know. There's nothing yet to suggest that it has to be.
It doesn't have to be, but I think it is.
Any particular reason why?
It's just the obvious thing to do. It's the obvious, like, if we're talking, things mirroring each other, it's just the obvious.
No, I get you. It answers the question of, okay, why have we only got one Discovery over here that they're contacting?
It does, yeah. That's a very good point. It explains a lot to go down that path, and I think right into evil Stamets in the network kind of implies this.
That said, I do wonder how evil he necessarily is.
He seemed more cold and slick.
He does, but is that you could read it as more just confidence and someone who's mastered this and knows what they're doing, because he's there. Oh, I was waiting for you to get here. He knows where he is. He's in control.
I guess the question would be, have we met anyone else who's not the opposite of what they've been? An argument could be made for Sarek because he's good in both.
Yeah.
So you could argue that maybe Stamets is good in both, but Stamets is part of this empire.
He is.
The Terran Empire, so he could. So my guess would be he is evil until evidence to suggest otherwise.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I have no reason to dispute that. I'm just the swerve maybe me more that he's more open to things with with what he's seen because of the Spore network. So maybe he's a bit softer than some of the others in the Empire.
I wonder if it'd make him softer, if it'd make him colder. Like, it'd make him not even care about his own empire. It would just make him, like, think he's a god and think that he's above everything.
Could do, yeah.
I could see a god complex being a thing. I could totally see that
makes
happening. Sense. So no, we had that. And, of course, we ended the episode with the big... And obviously, it's just worth mentioning that when they get Vok Tyler back. They know that he killed Culber and all the rest of it.
Yeah. They know who he is. They throw him in the brig.
Yeah. So
presumably next to Laurel.
Probably, yeah. And then on top of that, of course, we have Michael staying on the ship. Lorca's like, no, we have to stay here until we know that the plan's going to work, and keep track of things. And of course, at the end, the Emperor's ship shows up and obliterates the planet. We have no idea how many evacuated, because she says it wasn't enough time to evacuate them all. We don't know who evacuated. Yeah. Did their Vok evacuate? Did Sarek? Did the higher ups evacuate? We don't know. Maybe we'll find out. It seems the reason that we will. But we find out who the Emperor is.
Yeah. I figured this out quite early in the episode.
Go on.
Just when they mentioned that it was an Emperor, I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing last week that they mentioned, but we never went anywhere. I was like, okay, so by the same rules as Firewolf, okay, you got to tell us it's got to be someone.
Yeah, obviously.
And I was like, okay, well, if Michael's got this Shenzhou, stands to reason.
No, it's funny because I think Michelle Yeoh, we were expecting, okay, she's a guest star, she's going to be killed early on, and it was like kind of expected not to see her again because of that. It was almost like, I'm not going to say they intentionally did this, but it was almost like we kind of just expected based on the casting sort of. Like,
yes, they used the expectation against you.
Yeah, pretty much. But she shows up, she's got all this gold armor on, and she's like, and she makes Michael bow. Because up until now, this is the thing, like, Michael's sure she's having to deal with this world, and she's having to pretend she's this person, but she has the almost like the crutch of being able to just be in charge the whole time. She doesn't have to really convince anyone of anything.
No one can question her.
Yeah, she has to play the role, but she ultimately gets to say, "Shut up, I'm boss." She gets to say that the entire time. Whereas now the Emperor shows up, and the Emperor's like, "Hey, you're going to bow for your Emperor." So
because everyone else bows immediately. I like that Lorca bowed as well.
Yeah, Lorca was smart
he was
enough,
aware enough to just do it, which obviously maybe lends credence to the fact that he's from this world originally, because he just straight up bows. Like, he's like, no, I know what the protocol is.
Yeah, but you also just read it as him actually just reading the room better. Like, whereas Michael, of course, emotionally is shocked. She's like, oh crap.
Just hit harder.
Yeah, because this was her captain. This is who she cared about. This is who she basically sent to her death. She got her killed. Like that. She has a lot of reasons to be emotionally conflicted here, and I feel like this Mirror World stuff will help out a lot of like character stuff that's going on, and is making a lot of it more interesting. I do wish the show was hit these things emotionally better off when it first started, but at the very least it seems like it's going to take a lot of it and make more out of it with this stuff.
Yeah, at least it's making an arc out of it rather than it just being throwaway, I guess.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, there is. I think it's finding its feet. I still think the shaky foundation can be felt.
Yeah, it's something that I said last week that I'm saying here. You're saying, oh, I wish this had been, a bit earlier, been stronger before. But this is something that going into season 2 shouldn't matter too much, because this'll, groundwork will be done. We're out of the way, so it should be able to just get going from there in the future.
It shouldn't. I can't. This is really cool stuff. I can't help but feel though it would be cooler if I cared from the start about all this stuff. Like, if I cared about all the characters from the start, this would inherently just hit harder. And
that's fair. There's nothing to really do about that at this point.
Which is what I mean by you can still feel the shaky foundations. Before we get here, but hopefully, as we go, that'll become less and less important because we'll move on to other plots. And I think this is the key thing. I'm starting to care more about the characters because we're having adventures with them. We're doing things with them. They're involved in plots and doing stuff.
This is one of those things where we feel this foundation now because it's still in the early stages, but give it a couple of seasons of all this. You won't really notice it because you'll care about it already by that point.
I think it's very clear that the first 6 episodes were all set up. As much as, we've talked about how the first 2 episodes were very much very prologue-y, but even the first few episodes after that, it was all about, okay, here's the spore drive, here's what the spore drive is, here's what we can do with this. It was all setting all this stuff up. Whereas now it actually feels like we're getting to character plot based on all these ideas, which is good. So it's getting better. I don't think this was as good as last week's, though. There was a couple of clunky elements.
It wasn't quite as strong, but still, again, still better than that first chunk.
Yeah, for the most part. I'd say maybe episode 7 was still better than this. That was a tighter episode overall.
7 was the time loop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was better.
But yeah, so it's doing better things. It wasn't maybe as tight as last week, but it's definitely still on the right path. So hopefully we keep, and it definitely. I mean, it's the cliffhangers are definitely much better. Like I don't remember any cliffhangers, except the mid-season finale, of course, where they actually transported, feeling as exciting as the last two have, where it's like, okay, no, we're doing things that matter.
I think the only one that had me as excited as these was maybe the mirror scene with the teeth brushing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that was a really cool scene at the time, but it almost immediately went back to just everything else.
Yeah, never because it had to wait so long to pay off with anything. Because we're only just getting to that payoff now, that it was like okay. But as a cliffhanger in itself, as a scene, as a moment, I like that a lot.
It's funny actually. I my complaint now that I'm thinking about it, and we're talking about that scene, that mirror tease. That's fine, and it's fine to not go back to that for a while, because you want to do that. You want to build little breadcrumbs and then come back to them later. I think honestly the problem with the first chunk of the season, and this is weird, is that they should have put in some standalone little adventures for the crew to do to just get us affiliated with how the crew work together, what they're like in certain missions. But they went so heavy into just setting up the serialized plot that we never really got a chance to get to know the crew in normal circumstances.
No, it's true. It's something that a lot of these shows that become very serialized do is, they start off quite procedural. Yeah. You have just a few adventures here or there, maybe even for a full season at times.
Start of Fringe, mostly standalone stories, just some breadcrumbs though, and then once you get halfway through season 2, oh no, this is all serialized now. This is all connecting to the overall tapestry. And I almost wonder if it would have been worth having a few episodes early on in the season that were just standalone little adventures to go on.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we keep pointing out 7 as the one that was the turning point, where that was the first kind of, oh no, let's just have a bit of a fun adventure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, arguments to be made that maybe they should have done that a bit earlier, definitely.
Yeah, had a few of those sort of, so that when stuff started going down, we cared a bit more about the characters, which I think they're getting there. Like I say, I don't want to sound super negative, because I think they're actually on the right path. They've been in the right path for a few episodes now. I'm just, like I say, shaky foundations.
I'm confident that by the end of the season, we'll be pretty much there.
I'm feeling fairly confident that season 2 is going to be really good. I'm actually, unless season 1 shits the bed, by the ending.
Which it could.
It could.
If it continues on course.
But I'm feeling confident that season 2 could be one of those things where it really found its footing in season 2. It'll be one of those shows.
Yeah.
Like a Fringe, or hell, even Star Trek Next Generation, from what I hear, doesn't get really good till season 3. So this is a thing. It's even a thing specifically with Star Trek. So
yeah, and this has got as a first season, it's only 16 episodes that we're
15.
doing. 15.
Yeah.
So not even as many as a lot of first seasons that have this problem.
Nah, so we got 4 left, so we'll see how things progress next week. But let us know what you think of this episode in the comments below. People did, by the way, in the comments last time, told us a lot about Defiant and how it's popped up in a lot of different Star Trek things. So it's definitely a big part of Star Trek lore, is this Defiant ship.
I shall make a point of going and reading those comments.
And I believe, actually, there's an episode in season 3 of the original series, which is where we're first going to hear about it.
We'll get there in a couple of months then.
Yeah, so we'll be there before too long. Certainly before we get to season 2 of this, by a long shot, we'll have encountered the Defiant.
I should very much hope so.
So looking forward to that. So obviously, we are working our way through the original series. So you can go check out those reviews. We're about 2/3 into season 2 just now. Episode 20, I think, is going up later today on the public page, so you can go look for that. But let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments and stuff. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There'll be a link to that in the description. There's some other useful links down there as well. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching good TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?